this, guys. Way too much. By the way, this is meant to be interactive, so if you like our choices, if you disagree with our choices, hit us up on our social media at BEL_radio. Make sure you use hashtag Buffoon of the Year or hashtag BOTY. And if you're listening to us live here on Spreaker, go to www.behindthemylinesradio.us, click on the Listen Live button, and join the chat room. We got some new people in the chat, which is really cool to see. And give us your immediate feedback on our choices. Let's get into this, folks. Let's get buffoonish. We are going to start with the first bracket being the media. Now, there is no doubt that the media, across the board, were ultimately buffoonish as all get out. But we have picked out what I think is a nuanced four, and there's going to be reasons behind the matchups. The first matchup is the number 1 seed versus the number 4 seed. The number 1 seed being the editorial board of the Huffington Post versus Slate's chief political editor or writer or whatever, buffoon, whatever, Jamelle Bouie. Now, let's start very briefly. Huffington Post, obvious choice, and Amanda, why don't you start with telling us why?
Well, you know what? Aside from the obvious reasons, the big factor for Huffington Post for me is that little disclaimer that they put at the end of every political article, every current event article, that essentially demonized Donald Trump. And I think that if you want any credibility as a mainstream media organization like Huffington Post wants to claim, you can't insert editorial opinion into what should be an objective piece of journalism. And they did that for the entirety of the election, and it even made someone like me who did not support Donald Trump really, turn my nose up at an institution like the Huffington Post.
Right. Now, Matt, I'm going to ask you about HuffPo.
I think that's really what it was, is that their decision, for me, what made them buffoonish was to not the little thing at the bottom, but that they put all of their original coverage of Donald Trump on the entertainment page, not the politics page. And it really is just, it showed that they were not really trying to report the news, but really trying to shape the news, trying to influence the news, and in a way that really just completely, totally, and 100% misunderstood the mood of the nation. They live in the bubble, and that's fine, but at the same time, if you want to be a national news organization, you should just maybe try and understand the parts of the world outside San Francisco and New York.
Not to mention the fact that they had... Hang on. Not to mention the fact that they had, before a vote was cast, they had Hillary Clinton a 98.3% likely winner of the presidency, and a photo was leaked of their... not leaked, but I think posted by them on Twitter, of their editorial board, and they were clowned for the lack of diversity. It was a whitewash, if you want to call it that. You know I said wash.
I know, they were whiter. They were whiter than I am.
And that's pretty darn white. Go ahead, Amanda.
No, you took the words out of my mouth, Gene. Huffington Post is responsible for Pollster, and it was recently rated amongst the least accurate polling aggregators in the entire election. All right. So now listen, I did some... Amanda, actually, I got to give credit to Amanda Kohut. Amanda Kohut found Jamelle Bouie, who is the chief political correspondent for Slate. I'm just going to read a few headlines from stories that he wrote. And believe me, folks, I read a lot of his work in the past week. My God, what a buffoon. Headlines such as, "There's no such thing as a good Trump voter." "Why did some white Obama voters go for Trump?" "The Trump campaign is ending as it began, bigoted as hell. For minority voters, a ballot for Clinton is a proclamation that this is their country too." Clearly, Amanda, this man sees nothing but race everywhere he looks in politics. Absolutely, Gene. And, to be fair, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of journalists out there who had written the negative Trump narrative during the election. But I think what really sets Jamelle Bouie apart is the fact that these are headlines that he wrote after the election. And I think that it really demonstrates a certain deafness on his part
or I shouldn't say certain, an absolute deafness on his part that you have this, this sizable population of people that clearly felt that they had not been heard for years under the Obama administration, and now they finally got their voice. And instead of considering the fact that these people had valid concerns and that outreach needed to be made to these voters, he dismissed them and demonized them, just as if Trump had never won. He doesn't learn, and I think that it demonstrates a closed-minded approach to politics, which is the very thing that he accuses conservatives of.
Now, Matt, you just became aware of Mr. Bowie recently, right?
Well, like you said, this is you have to give credit where credit is due. This is Amanda's find, and she is a fine, well-qualified buffoonologist, and that's why we love her. But one of the things that really strikes me out is this is getting another example of the dig-in-your-heels buffoon. The one who cannot see that the world has changed, or, more importantly, that the world he thought existed doesn't. And now he's like, well, screw that, I'm just going to keep going as if it did. So it's, it is what it is. He's buffoonish for that reason, for very much the dig in your heels way of thinking of, well, I'm just going to keep going as if everything's the same. Yeah, it's great. It's great that they're, sure that iceberg looks big, but we'll just keep going straight.
That's pretty buffoonish, absolutely. A couple of comments from the chat room saying, we have 2 social justice warrior websites. This is going to be a tough call, and they can't let the white privilege narrative go. Good stuff. It looks like we're doing good so far. And this next selection, this next matchup, though, is where we're going to lose half our listeners. Because either way, some conservative or populist, or whatever you want to call it, Republican, whatever, is going to be mad. The number 2 seed...
Are you assuming that we don't have any Democrats listening, Gene? Are you assuming
absolutely
there are none that would tune into this?
Well, we know the ones who they are anyway. But it's like 2 or 3, we whatever. The number 2 seed, Breitbart News, versus the number 3 seed, the Never Trump Movement. It's about to get lit in here, folks. This is going to ruffle some feathers, Amanda, right?
Absolutely. And, I don't think we even need to do individual analysis. I think we could just discuss the head-to-head matchup here. Like you said, 2 Republican/conservative movements here, nominated for buffoonery for different reasons. Much like Jamel Bowie, Never Trump is the group of people who dug in their heels and who were working against Trump, and we still know many of them who are out there and still Never Trump and are not accepting of the new reality. So, for that reason alone, they deserve to be on this list.
Well, Matt, let me just... Go ahead.
I was going to say, Breitbart, on the other hand, I personally nominated for multiple reasons. Breitbart had been, for the entire duration of this election, the finest purveyor of unhinged political commentary and also inaccurate political commentary. I can't tell you all of the primary elections that Breitbart had said, it's going to go this way, it's going to go this way, in particular John McCain's primary election. And what happened on the Arizona primary election day? John McCain won re-election. And another example, right after Donald Trump won, Donald Trump started backsliding a little bit on some of his positions. What's the first thing Breitbart did? They posted a headline saying that they have already been betrayed.
You know what, though?
They have lost sight of Andrew Breitbart's work. Breitbart today is not the Breitbart that we knew 5 years ago.
As someone said in the chat room, it is now Bannon-Bart. But the reason why I agree with putting Breitbart here, and it's kind of the same reason for Never Trump, Breitbart reported every little development in the Trump campaign like it was the biggest earth-shattering announcement in history. Announcements like, when an Idaho senator decided to re-endorse Trump, the article was glowing. It was like they took the press release and they copied and pasted it right into their site. On the other hand, The Never Trump people did the exact same thing with every little thing to detract from Donald Trump. And they nitpicked at every single little thing. That, to me, is the earmarks of buffoonery. When people get so dug into their position that they fail to see the other side. We talked about the echo chamber with Jamel Bowie. This is two very different echo chambers battling it out.
And I will say this, just in the issue of journalistic integrity, and I'm sure that everyone's going to call me terrible things in the chat room once I say this. I did not vote for Donald Trump. I'm not one of those people who looks at it now. I'm not one of those people who looks at it now and says, "Oh my God, how could this happen? Oh my God, everyone's an idiot. Oh my God, everyone who voted for him is racist. Oh my God, everyone who voted for him was fool." That's the problem with the Never Trump movement. Is that, again, it is a dig in your heels buffoonery, and that is a theme that we're seeing in this bracket. The theme that we're seeing is people who just couldn't accept a reality other than the one that they created for themselves. And Breitbart's another one. Say what you will about Andrew Breitbart, but the man had an integrity. He had a vision. He had an idea of, don't accept the narrative just because it's put in front of you. Think for yourself. Evaluate it for yourself. Put it forward against the independent facts that you know, and come to your own conclusions. Breitbart today, since his death, has become, this is what we believe, and if you don't believe it against us, you are a traitor and a failure. That's terrible. That is just terrible. It's antithetical to everything he stood for. And it's a damn shame. And it creates that echo chamber of, this has to be true because we say it's true. And that's just not a good thing going forward. And you know what? They were right. Let's give Breitbart credit where credit's due. They got onto Trump early, and guess who's president of the United States now? But they did it in such a way that just destroyed whatever credibility they have.
And that's, I think, what we were saying about this media bracket is behind enemy lines is battling the echo chamber. The echo chamber can be progressive, conservative, populist. The echo chamber has to go. And I think that's what we're saying with these media picks, and I think we did a great job of rounding it out. Fair and balanced, if you will, from a show that is never fair and balanced. So listen, normally we would take a break and we would, say hi to some of our sponsors, like Less Government More Fun. Shout out to Less Government More Fun. Check out lessgovmorefun.com, and the swag there is amazing. I tell you, forget about, the slogan itself is great, but the clothes are comfortable. They come in bigger sizes for guys like me, and it's really, they've been such great supporters of the show. They shout out the show as much as they can on social media. lessgovmorefun.com. We really love you guys. And by the way, Less Government More Fun in the chat tonight, and we love having them in there with some dynamite drop-ins. So thank you so much for joining us. What I'm also going to do is do our halftime stuff. We're going commercial free, guys. I'm making the snap decision right now. Thanks for listening to Behind Enemy Lines Radio.
Oh, dear God.
I'm Gene, that was Matt, and Amanda's around here somewhere. And while we're listening, check us out at www.behindenemylinesradio.us. Check us out on the Facebooks and the Twitters at BEL_radio. And if you missed any part of the live show that we do live Tuesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern on Spreaker, you can check us out at any one of our rebroadcast outlets, including WJHC 107.5 FM in Jasper, Florida, WDDQ 92.1 FM in Adel, Georgia, both part of the Red Nation Rising Radio Network, both on terrestrial radio and online at Red Nation. I'm going to figure out that website later. I screwed it up, and I'll plug it in later, but it doesn't matter. Red Nation Rising Radio, check them out. Also on KLRN Radio, High Plains Talk Radio and Sackheads Media, ICRN, the Internet Conservative Radio Network, and Lanterns Radio at lanterns.buzz. But even if you miss us then on any one of those rebroadcasts, you can check us out on demand through any one of these services, including iTunes, Spreaker, TuneIn, Stitcher, Podbay, Player FM, SoundCloud, discover us on Google Play Music, and, of course, iHeartRadio. And now that I made a full buffoon of myself, back to the buffoonery.
And what Gene doesn't tell you is that they do the show through smoke signals coming out of the middle of Staten Island. So you just look out over New York Harbor and you can see the entire show.
I really don't like you right now, Fairly. But whatever, it's okay.
Yeah, most people don't.
Onward and upward, or downward as it may seem, with the bracket.